What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about something that I've actually never talked about on this channel, and I wanted to make a video on it because our good friend Jerdy posted a really good Wowhead article on this topic. And the topic is on horizontal versus vertical progression in Classic WoW and moving forward into Classic Plus, and some really good examples of how horizontal progression could work in Classic Plus if Blizzard keeps that same model, right? People don't realize that in vanilla and even in TBC to some extent, Classic WoW did have a lot of horizontal progression, meaning progression that kind of went sideways instead of just spiking your power and going just straight up with gear. Yes, that does inevitably happen in every single version of WoW, but Jerdy really did give a bunch of good examples from vanilla WoW that were kind of horizontal progression, and you know, he gave examples of how they could do this in Classic Plus. So I wanted to go over this article with you guys because I really agree with pretty much everything he said. And I think that if Blizzard reads this and takes some of these ideas, it could be phenomenal, right? We do know that Classic WoW, it's not going to be as horizontal as a game like old school RuneScape because it's just not built that way, right? RuneScape is built completely different. You could play the entire game just skilling without doing combat in any way, shape, or form, leveling your skills to 99. Yes, there's some things you have to do combat to achieve, especially if you're trying to quest in RuneScape, but you could play the entire game as just a miner or just, a woodcutter, whatever you want to do. In Classic WoW, it's not so much the case. You level up. You get to your end game raid, the next raid comes out, you get that gear, the next raid comes out, you get that gear, the next raid comes out, you get that gear. But we can use Classic WoW's design and kind of take some things that they did in vanilla and expand on that in Classic Plus to get that horizontal progression. And Jerdy really did a good job at explaining how Blizzard could do this. So let's pull up the article and look at it. So in the Wowhead article, you know, he referenced Willie's last video where he kind of talked about this exact same thing. And then he goes into explaining what vertical and horizontal progression really means. So we're going to read through this together. Vertical progression is something World of Warcraft players are used to. In vertical progression, new content means new raids, which means the old content becomes obsolete. We see this more in modern World of Warcraft with each patch and season as PvP resets, and players will often replace a lot of their gear from the previous patch through entry-level content like the campaign, delves, and lower-level mythic keys. The positive to this is that players can come back whenever they want without having to grind old content and feel as though they are behind. The negative, however, is that old content becomes irrelevant, and players do not need to do the old content outside of collection content or achievements. A player just joining the game will not be able to experience the older content authentically. The current raid in the War Within is Manaforge Omega. The previous raids, Liberation of the Undermine and Nerubar Palace, offer no vertical progression. As Azeroth continues to grow, it only creates more space in the world as players do not need to go back. In Classic WoW, players have many reasons to go back into previous zones and raids. Some examples are, until Naxxramas, a warrior's best in slot belt and ring come from Molten Core. Warrior and Paladin tanks' best weapon is the legendary Thunder Fury Blessed Blade of the Windseeker for the entire game, and players who seek out the rewards from Imperial Karaji armaments in Ahn'Qiraj will need Elementium ore, which drops in the previous raid, Blackwing Lair. Even when just hitting max level, a warrior will want to go into mid-level 40s dungeons like Maraudon for their Blackstone ring, which is a pre-raid best in slot ring option. These are examples of horizontal gearing progression. And I'm not going to read his entire article. I just wanted to give you the basis of what he was talking about, the basis of what he was writing here. And he goes into great detail talking about, like, these really are good examples of horizontal progression in Classic WoW. And then he talks about how maybe in Classic Plus, if it's designed the right way, as future raids come out, they give you reasons to go back and raid Molten Core, right? Maybe there's some high-level mats you need to go into Molten Core to farm every week to craft a piece of gear in the latest raid tier. That's fantastic and awesome. These are ways that we can kind of keep the game alive without just continuously spiking your power and going up and up and up and up. You're maybe going at a diagonal, right? Think about it like that. You're going this way instead of straight up. Yes, you're in the latest raid tier and you're wearing all this new gear, but maybe you need to go back and do some of the older raids to achieve that level of gear. Stuff like that is really awesome. He goes into a great level of detail talking about attunements. And this is one that's a little bit controversial, right? Because attunements, they really are a great form of horizontal progression. You do need to do these attunements on every character you make and all that, so people are always running that content. Now, this one, like I said, is controversial because if we look at what we're doing in TBC this time around, they're doing a system in which, oh wait, is that ZG buff? Oh my God, it is. Let's get ZG buff. They're talking about how in TBC, that's coming out soon, we are not going to need to do our attunements more than once. If you get attuned on your main character, any alts that you have will then, you know, onward be attuned without having to do the attunements. Now, this is great. It makes the game very alt friendly. And this is great because TBC, as we know it, this is kind of seasonal. We're not going to be playing TBC forever. This isn't Classic Plus. It's most likely going to move into Wrath, right? Whereas Classic Plus, if you want a game that's going to last forever and constantly have content and not have these lesser raid tiers and earlier content feel belittled and out, you know, completely done where you don't need to do it anymore, having attunements in the game is good. And having you know, need to do them on every single character that you level is good as well, in my opinion, right? So I think that keeping attunements the way they are in vanilla is a really good way of keeping the world and old content alive. I agree with Jerdy 100% on this. I agree with what he said about, you know, maybe crafting up some, you know, mats that you have to go back into old raids to get to craft the newest level of gear. All of that stuff makes sense, and I think Blizzard really needs to pay close attention to this stuff because without that slightly horizontal progression, and again, we're not talking about RuneScape levels of horizontal progression. They're completely different games. Classic WoW is not designed in that way. It is pretty much designed with vertical progression as the main point of the game. That is how you progress your characters, and that's fine, but there's ways of keeping it so that you do have to run these old raids. You know, another prime example he gave, which every one of us knows that plays Classic WoW, is Onslaught Girdle for Warriors. I mean, you're raiding Molten Core even when you're in AQ40 because Onslaught Girdle is just that good. Things like this are, in my opinion, extremely important for Blizzard to implement in, you know, Classic Plus going forward. Because without this, if we make it so that the game is highly alt-friendly, super quick to just jump on alts and raid on all your characters and do all this stuff, that is inevitably what will kill the world in the older content. Classic WoW's been around for 20 years and Anniversary's never been more popular than it is right now. People are playing this game for like the 5th time, and there's no like fast tracking going on when it comes to attunements and all that stuff, and people are just doing it and still playing the game. I would argue and say that that is one of the most important things that Blizzard needs to look at when developing Classic Plus. If this really is going to be a permanent, like, constantly updated version of Classic WoW, you do need to kind of get rid of a lot of the shortcuts that we kind of have grown accustomed to in like all the seasonal versions of WoW that we've gotten. They don't really have any place in a permanent version of the game that's going to last forever. What's the rush? Do the attunement on all of your characters. You have to. Like, it keeps the world alive. It keeps those old raids alive. And I've never really talked about vertical versus horizontal progression in any of my videos. But when I read through this article that Jerdy put out, it really, like, I was like, yeah, I resonate with everything that he's saying here. I think this all really makes a lot of sense. And I wanted to kind of push this out to a larger group of you guys, because this article was probably the best take that I've ever seen on Classic Plus's progression and how it should work. I think it's really important, and I want to get your guys' opinions on it and kind of push this out to a wider audience. So if you guys want to check out Jerdy, I'll link his channels down in the description below. I'll link the Wowhead article as well if you guys want to read through the entire thing on your own. But I just wanted to give my take on it and how I just agree with pretty much everything he says in here. Classic Plus needs to have horizontal progression for it to live a long time and not just die after 6 months. If we get a repeat of pretty much how SOD worked, which SOD was a blast and a lot of fun, it was seasonal. It needed to be vertical. If we get a repeat of that, Classic Plus will not feel like it should. It's not going to feel like a permanent version of the game. It's going to feel seasonal again. And I think that's something that we really do need to avoid. But anyway, yeah, you guys go read through the article. Let me know what you think. Check out Jerdy. I'll link his channels down below in the description. So much credit goes out to this guy. He really loves the game, and everything this man puts out is just amazing, top tier content. So check out Jerdy and let me know again what you guys think down in the comments below. I really want to get a discussion going about this and see if we could get this to reach many people. I want to see if people agree on this and you know, feel like this is the way that we should move forward with Classic Plus if Blizzard is watching. But anyways, guys, like the video. If you enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications so you don't miss the next time I post a video. We cover everything Classic WoW here on this channel. And follow me over on kick.com/hammerdance. We stream Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern time. But anyways, guys, thank you all so much for watching and listening in. I'll see you all in the next one.